Hello and welcome to the RevOps show. Today we are diving into a concept that we've touched on before but haven't fully broken down in an episode. That concept is speed versus velocity. What's the difference between moving fast and making real progress? How does that impact your productivity and business output? Doug and Jess are answering all of the questions and more in this episode. So with that, let's get into it.
Jess, I'm not going to lie to you.
Okay.
I'm tired.
Yeah.
It's been a long week.
January's been a hell of a year.
It has. It's January 31st. So at least January's over. It hasn't been it's been a weird month. It's been a bizarre month.
It's not been bad. It's just been like, this has been the most hectic January that I can remember. Yeah. The most hectic January.
Amazing sales organization in Q4.
Exactly.
It's all that revenue ops. That's
revenue ops.
It's revenue ops.
It's that revenue ops.
That revenue ops thing. The operation.
It's
Jess,
Friday.
Are you really going to take a week off in March and leave me all alone?
Yes, I am. And I'm like fully unplugged because I'm going on a cruise, so I won't be accessible.
Oh, I'll still get you dad jokes. I'll still find a way to get you dad jokes.
I'm sure you will. So
what's going on in your life, Jess? What's new? Let's catch up. It's been a while since we caught
up. Nothing really. Just
like there's no movies coming out to talk about. There's
not. It's January. There's never movies. This is Dumpuary for movie studios. It's always bad movies out in January.
So is Wicked 2 the movie of 2025 you're looking forward to, or is there something else? Or are you a Superman?
Oh, I'm not a James Gunn fan, so I'm not looking forward to Superman at all. Wicked 2 is probably the movie I'm looking forward to.
I don't know about you. I'm done with superheroes.
I'm kind of over it. The last couple of movies that I've seen have not been good.
Oh, I watched last weekend. I finally got around to watching Deadpool and Wolverine.
So Deadpool and Wolverine, I don't think I said it was good. I was entertained by it. But I'm who they were winking at I'm like right in the pocket for who they were winking at the whole time.
So what I liked about Deadpool 1 and 2 was that they were winking at.
Yeah.
They just went, like, it was beyond, you know what it reminded me of?
What?
The third Austin Powers movie.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
Right. That it stopped being a movie and just became a series of bits.
100%. I mean, and spoiler alert, when Channing Tatum showed up, that was pandering to like my generation.
When a movie's been out for more than a year, can you call it spoiler alert?
I mean, I probably not. Plus, we're not really we're not a movie podcast, even though we do talk about movies quite frequently on here.
Yeah, the first 2/3 of the movie was very, very painful.
Well, I'm sure. Yeah.
But you know me, I'm a story person, Jess. I love stories. Tell me a story. Jess.
It was a dark and stormy night in October.
1967.
1984.
Ooh. A switcheroonie there.
Oh, that's right. We have the same birth month, so it works either way.
The world was about to change.
Exactly.
Yes, I don't know about you, but I've got the need for speed.
Oh boy. Yeah, that's our topic today.
I just laid up a great transition into our topic.
You did.
You seemed unprepared.
We did not talk about that. I did not know that you would be throwing that transition. I was actually looking. I don't think we've.
I would have added it to the soundboard.
Yeah, you should have. Wow. That is a missed opportunity that you didn't add it to the soundboard.
Yeah, I just that'll tell you the energy that I have right now.
Yep. I can't believe. So I know we've talked about this in conversations that we've had. There's no way we didn't, but this has never been a topic for the podcast from
I was surprised when you brought it up. I was like, haven't we talked about that before? Wasn't that like the first episode?
I looked through the episodes. It does not look like this has been a subject that we've talked about specifically. So I want to talk about speed and velocity.
Hold on.
Today.
Are you telling me you don't have memorized the 110 episodes that we've done so far?
I have not. Have you?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Not.
Appreciate your honesty.
Speak the truth.
So today we are going to talk about speed and velocity, which is something we talk about frequently internally with clients. It's how we approach implementations and ongoing engagements. Doug, can you give us like what is speed versus velocity and how does that relate to how we operate?
So speed is a measurement of movement. It's how fast are you going, but it's directionless. So the direction that you go in is not relevant to the measurement. Velocity adds a vector, which basically means that it's a progress. Here's my favorite story. This I still remember when I came up with this. It was actually on the stage when I presented at the Marketing AI conference, because I was talking about how we're addicted to speed. And I told the story. I remember when I was coaching youth baseball, one of the kids on the team who we all thought was like really fast. Like everything was about, look how fast Jimmy is. His name was not Jimmy. I'm protecting his name. I don't know. I just feel bad if I were to actually share his real name. Anyway, Jimmy, everyone thought in practice, Jimmy was really fast. He was small, but he looked fast. And Jimmy got walked in his first at bat. I was third base coach, so I gave the sign. See, if those of you that are watching, you saw the activator and the sign. I gave the sign for him to steal. Jimmy takes off on the pitch. Catcher gets the ball, throws to second base. Second baseman is literally waiting for Jimmy to get there. Tags him out. End of the inning. Go to the sidelines. Coach is like, "What happened there? Did he get a bad jump? What happened?" I'm like, "No, I don't know. Everything looked fine. He just didn't get there." That's when one of the parents came over and said, guys, you're missing it, right? You're looking at how fast his feet are moving, but his feet don't go anywhere, right? So if I were to run like a treadmill, if I were to run on a treadmill at 6 miles an hour, mm-hmm. my speed would be 6 miles an hour.
Yep.
My velocity would be 0.
Because you're in the same spot.
Right. If I were to run in circles, my speed would be whatever speed I'm running. Technically speaking, my velocity would change because as my direction changed my velocity, but my net velocity would be 0. Yep. So speed is how fast are you going? So when we talk about it from a business standpoint, mm-hmm. We talk about it from a performance standpoint. Speed is how fast are you moving? Velocity is how long does it take you to get there? So speed is how many activities take place in a sales process. Velocity is the total amount of time it takes to make a sale. Well, there's 2 ways that you can measure velocity. You could measure it on chronological time, mm-hmm. capacity time. I actually think it's a mistake that most people only measure sales velocity on a chronological time.
I don't think I've ever heard you describe it that way. I like that.
We've never done this as an episode before. I had to break out some new material, Jess.
Yep.
Jess, it was an emotional wedding. Even the cake was in tears.
Jesus. Dad joke transition. So is speed bad? I've actually given this a lot of thought this week.
What's interesting is I don't actually look at things as good or bad very much. Is speed bad? Is that the question?
Yeah. Is speed bad?
No, it's not. I think the obsession with speed leads to imbalance, but speed itself is not.
Yeah.
There's a certain level of speed that's needed. The tale that we talk about is the rabbit. I always want to say the rabbit and the hare. But
the tortoise and the hare.
That would be the rabbit and the rabbit. The turtle and the hare.
Yeah.
Right. The hare is fast. The hare has speed, but the turtle actually had more velocity. He won the race.
Yep.
But I'm not suggesting that you should be a turtle.
Right. Yeah. And you said speed is imbalanced. I think it's bumpy. I don't know if that's the same thing, but when I think about speed, I think frequently it's bumpy.
there's an interesting thing because think about a speedboat.
Mm-hmm.
And if a speedboat goes too slow, it's a really uncomfortable boat.
Yeah.
You feel every bump.
Yeah.
When you pick up the speed of a speedboat, the ride gets smoother. So I think what happens, I wanted to weave this in. I didn't have time to really think about it, but I get to weave it in. There's a terminal velocity, right? Terminal velocity is the fastest rate that an object can move through liquid. Air, by the way, is liquid. So that's why when you jump out of a plane, they talk about terminal velocity. He achieved terminal velocity. You can't really go faster than that, but you can move faster. So like the question is, I think that, I mean, my favorite analogy to performance and to business, and when we talk about speed and velocity, is the idea of slow the game down. The idea of if you want to shorten the sales cycle, slow down the sales process.
Yep.
There's a level where if you go too slow, you don't pick up enough momentum, you can't achieve a velocity that matters. It's really, I mean, it's like in the ideal world, speed and velocity are the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
in business, I don't think it's possible in real life for speed and velocity. There's always greater speed than velocity. I think the bumpiness is the level of speed that's greater than velocity. And I'm not a physicist, so I'm sure I just said something that somebody that knows science far better than I do would be able to take issue with. But metaphorically speaking, I think that's where the issue comes. It's like when I took the Series 7, you needed a 70 to pass. I got up, I think I got like a 91 or something like that. And I was very disappointed. And people were like, why are you disappointed? I said, I worked 21 points too hard.
Yeah. So I think this has been on my mind a lot because of some of the stuff we're dealing with clients. And I agree with you that speed's important. So we frequently talk about this or it gets perceived, I think, when we talk about speed versus velocity, that speed bad, velocity good. No, you need speed to get velocity, as you just alluded to. I agree with you. I don't think speed's bad. We have a client who just kicked off, and one thing I shared with them is like, we need to get conversations scheduled. We need to come out of the gate strong because we need to get to a critical mass of movement basically and activity so we can get to velocity.
There's an aspect, and I was just talking to somebody about this. I said, look, here's where you're going to find that we're different. So we just got hired. There's a strategic level that we're providing, but we're also taking over the admin roles. And I said, here's one of the things that you're going to find is going to be different. And it's going to be really frustrating to you initially because you're going to feel like every time you want something, we respond slow.
Yeah.
That we start off slow. You know, what is it that Abraham Lincoln said, something to the effect of, if I had 4 hours to cut down a tree, I'm going to spend the first 3 hours sharpening my saw.
Yep.
That's speed versus velocity, right? Speed is I get in and I just start cutting.
Yep.
And then I realize, oh, wait, I'm cutting in the wrong place or there's a million different things, right? You get halfway in, like how much rework is needed? What's the disruption and the displacement? Right. The challenge in a complex ecosystem when speed is about taking a big old rock and dropping it in a lake. Right. There's the other thing that happens too is this is true with speed and velocity. This is what terminal velocity is about, is there's a level of drag that as you increase force. And one means of increasing force is increasing speed. You are also increasing drag. The faster you go, the more drag there is working to hold you back, right? Stasis is a natural condition. Every system fights for stasis. Boy, we are my science teachers in college right now are like, where was this person? Right. And so I think, one of the challenges with velocity is velocity requires a vector. And in our definition of what we're talking about as a vector, it requires a point that you're going to.
Yeah.
You have to define what the end point is. And that's hard. And it's headache inducing. So there's an element of like, we do a series of deep dives and we come to understand. And And 30 days in, you're like, we haven't done anything.
Yeah.
I don't see anything. There's nothing, right?
Yep.
60 days in, we're 50% further than you've ever been before.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
And so we get you there faster, but we don't go faster.
Yeah. Yeah. And that 30 to 45 day mark is like when we start getting the nervous jitters. Cause to your point, work's been done, but nothing's come out of it. I'll do you one better than defining the end is hard. When you're in the middle, keeping to that vector, that endpoint is really hard because 10 new things have surfaced that you weren't aware of, shiny objects. Oh, you know what? This is a quick win. So I'm going to veer off path. And I think that is also where we see things just go totally off the rails and get super, what I call bumpy. It's the Veruca Salt.
Well,
I want it now.
Well, I think there's two things. I think that there's the I want it now, but there's also the you keep moving the endpoint.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're talking about something like a sales process, a marketing campaign, if we're talking about anything that matters, we're talking about something that that probably hasn't been done before. And so when you're about to start, you're aware of like you're super aware of the problems. You're super aware of the gaps. And so you're like, oh no, wait, we need to fix this. We need to fix this. We need to fix this. And as as we've talked about internally many times before, it's a very fine line between fixing something that's broken and working on the next iteration. And what you find yourself in is that you start working on the next iteration before you've gotten to complete. This is where the whole idea of levels of complete comes. Is we're getting to this level of functionality. This is why Agile is better than Waterfall. We're getting to this level of functionality, and then we'll iterate to the next level of functionality. But
can you talk to levels of complete for a minute? Because I know we've talked about it in previous episodes, but what do you mean by levels of complete?
So I always say nothing's ever done, but there's certain levels of complete. So by the way, like when I was coaching hitters,
mm-hmm.
my first complete was where are your feet and what's your basic weight distribution?
Yep.
And when you get your feet into the right place, especially when you spent years having them in the wrong place, it feels really weird and you're really uncomfortable. And that discomfort shows in other things that you're doing. And while other people are looking and saying, "Oh wow, his hitting's gotten worse," I'm like, "Yeah, I'm not. We're not looking at that, right? Level of complete. So a level of complete is what are we focused on? What's the user experience? What's the user capability, right? You get to that level of complete. By the way, that's now done.
Yep.
So you're not in the middle of it anymore. And then we work on our next level of complete, right?
Yeah,
and so we're building, and that can be, the levels of complete can be horizontal or vertical. So it could be, we're going to work on our email newsletter. That's a vertical level of complete.
Yep.
We're going to work on how salespeople manage the communications with existing customers. That's a horizontal level of complete.
Yep. Yeah, I have another thought on that, and it could just be that I'm like in implementation land right now. So
we're not in implementation land.
Yes. Well, I'm deep in implementation land right now. So we ran into this with like setting up users. We kept getting, I think it was daily at one point, every day, and actually a couple of times a day. 1 week we kept getting updated user lists, and it's like, okay, guys, we need to lock in, like, what are we going to get to what I called steady state, but complete in our version 1 of users. And then we can pick a waypoint when we're going to do our version 2, version 3, because it is a moving target, right? They're going to have turnover. They're going to have new folks come on. People change roles, but we've got to, like, one thing that was happening is we were never able to get that until we set that, hey, this is the list we're locking in for this first iteration. We were never able to get it fully set up because the goalposts kept moving, things kept changing. You've got to identify, like, what is that complete, what is that steady state to be able to move to the next stage.
I think that you had two things. I think you had an aspect of level of complete not being clear, but you also had speed over velocity. Here, let's get you the list. Oh,
Yes.
wait, we forgot about this. Oh, wait, hey guys, let's slow down, right? Let's slow down. Let's think through, what do we want, right? What's the core? Okay, let's put this together.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And a good friend of mine is a pediatric cardiologist, and one of his favorite phrases is you never run to a code blue, right? Measure twice, cut once. That's velocity over speed. And the thing is, what you build gets built better and faster. It just happens slower.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing with people, I think, where velocity becomes more important than speed. And my son went to a speed and agility camp. I don't know why they just call it a camp. It's, you go to a session 1 hour a week for like 8 weeks or whatever, and they were.
Yep.
And the number one thing that translates into speed of movement, so that makes you a faster runner, is you spend far more time reducing movement. So it's actually move your body. And they literally said, move your body slower so you can pick up speed, because as you're moving, you begin to fight yourself. You're creating that drag.
Yeah.
Right. So finding so is speed bad? No, speed's not bad. Trying to go for too much speed is bad. Too much speed becomes carelessness.
Yeah.
I like to think of it as an OODA loop.
We'll link the OODA loop episode in the show notes.
But think about it. An OODA loop is velocity over speed. It's observe, orient, decide. It's not decide. It's not act. It's observe, orient, decide, act.
Yeah. So if you're operating everything with speed, you're actually acting first, jumping in, not doing the first three steps.
I had somebody early in my career that talked to me about, I need to be more responsive and less reactive.
Oh, interesting. I like that.
Right.
They told you that, or they said they needed to do that? Okay.
Now, can you believe that? Someone told me I needed to be less reactive.
It blows my mind.
That's what I'm saying.
Why is there such an obsession with speed, though? Why do you think? Because we're seeing this with clients. I think we're seeing this also with salespeople at our client. Like,
have you ever sat in traffic on a highway? And so you went ahead and you're like, look, I'm taking the back roads, and it took you 45 minutes to get there. And if you had just stuck on the highway, you would have gotten there in 30 minutes.
This is my husband's favorite tactic. So we frequently drive from San Antonio to Dallas, and Austin is just brutal. And this is his favorite thing to do. He will exit the highway and take the service road or side streets. Even though
it takes longer than it would have if you had just.
Yes.
Because we feel and measure movement. Why do you, first off, it's hard to slow down, especially especially early.
Yeah.
Right. And then you jump in and you start doing things, and things start going wrong. My favorite story, I guess I should ask you this question, because I remember someone once said we need to map our workflows before we build them. And the response that I got was, we don't have time to do that. Yeah.
That was the response you got. I was wrong.
But
and now I'm the biggest proponent, and I'm the one who gets on people when they don't do that.
but my point is that, like, not moving feels like you're not doing anything. Addition comes 10 times easier than subtraction.
It's funny, we had a similar conversation this morning because we're in the process of mapping out a pretty complex data hierarchy and restructure. We were going back and forth a little bit about, well, are they going to realize that we're doing anything? Because I'm currently getting hit. Hey, where is it? Hey, where is it? Is this going to be done? This goes into what we talked about as a 30, 45 day with initial implementation. And it's like, no, guys, there's a lot of thinking work and work happening because that's important.
Yeah, because especially when we're talking about changing the hierarchy of an existing structure, again, it's when you change one thing, you're changing everything. There will always be unexpected consequences. So it's finding that balance. But if you jump too fast, if you move too fast, you break things, and the cost of breaking things, right? And there's an external reason that they're pushing for speed.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I understand why you're doing this, but there's also that, it's the SEAL mantra, slow is smooth, smooth is fast. They're not saying, like, I've never seen the SEALs do something slow. I would say that I've seen them do lots of things methodically, but slow is about, slow is relative, slow is hard.
Yeah.
Right. By the way, I think we talked about this in a previous podcast. The thing that surprises me more than anything, I asked the question, when this project is done, how will you know it's successful?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the number one response, that's a really good question. The second most common response, we hadn't really thought about that. Wait, really? But it hadn't, right? Yeah. It's like, we have this problem, we need to fix this problem. What's it look like when it's fixed? I don't know. By the way, the next question is, what else is impacted by that? Right? That's why we fall into whack-a-mole.
Yeah.
Right. So the difficulty is we measure what's easy to measure, and speed is a hell of a lot easier to measure. Movement is a hell of a lot easier to measure than velocity is. So it's just easy. You know, when you look at what any company or organization does, there's always some element of an 80-ish, 20-ish rule. I mean, for some people, it might be 90-10. For other people, it might be 70-30.
Yeah.
But the majority of what we do doesn't matter that much, so long as those few things that really move the needle, that really make a difference. Right? I'm not saying you shouldn't be doing the 70, 80% of things that you're doing. I'm not saying that you should do them without caring how good they are. But the reality is, as long as you're not doing something bad, 20% of what you're doing needs to be working.
Yep.
80% of what you do needs to not be broken.
Yeah.
And the truth of the matter is 20% of what you're doing, maybe even 30%, can probably be broken. And so long as the 20% that matters is working, you're going to overcome that, right? You're never going to work, our superpower is focus, right? Speed is about doing more with less. Velocity is about doing less with more.
Why would you want to do less with more, though?
Actually, I was listening to a great book, just finished listening to a great book called How to Win the Premier League. It's by the data analysis person who worked for Liverpool.
Okay.
And, this is what Moneyball is all about. Moneyball is built on the idea. Remember, Moneyball was popularized, was brought to the mainstream by the Oakland A's, who played on a very, very limited budget. So they had a restricted, they had a major restriction of resources, especially relative to their competitors. The question is, for the limited resources that I have, how can I get better performance? So why would you want to do less with more? Well, do I want to try to do 10 things with 10 units? Or do I want to try to do the 3 things that matter most with 10 units? And I allocate more. What am I more likely to be successful with? Right? By the way, the people are saying, no, if you do 10 things, but what's the likelihood you're going to do any of those 10 things great?
Correct. And like for me, and I've said this on a few occasions to like raise the flag that we might be in trouble, is I'll say, we're doing a lot of things. I don't know if any of them are the right one. like we're getting a lot of stuff done, but I don't know if any of them are good or right.
Yeah. There's also, we're doing a lot of things. I don't know if any of them are right because we're not doing any of them exceptionally well.
Right.
Right. Because we're not getting something, we're never completing something. We're getting something right. It's okay to be wrong. Right. So long as you have a basis. By the way, that's part of velocity, is having that hypothesis, going into it with an hypothesis.
Yep.
Right. And I think that, when you look at RevOps, one of the RevOps gone wrong becomes one more thing that an organization is doing. And that's where operations becomes the sales prevention department.
Yeah.
In a way of moving forward faster. RevOps should be the velocity police. RevOps is the work on the business function more than it's the work in the business function.
Is there anything else that you wanted to touch on around speed and velocity? Because we hit a lot in a short period of time, but I think we covered everything I wanted to cover. Was there anything else you wanted to talk about?
I think if you want to move from a focus on speed to a focus on velocity, it's important that you have a clear structure in place. What is that? What are the inputs that you're focused on? What are you expecting those inputs to create? What are the outcomes? The other thing too, why we get obsessed with speed is we focus too much on results. We start resulting. We say, we missed our number, so we did something wrong. Quick, we've got to change this because speed, like you can move faster. Speed is about the noise. Velocity is about the signal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so there is an element of you do have to think and behave much more probabilistically. You have to be less reactive, but that doesn't mean that you can fail to react. Because what's interesting is the whole theory of the OODA loop. The theory of the OODA loop is not to slow you down. It's actually to speed you up, because it's whoever reacts first, whoever can respond first in a dogfight is the one that's most likely to get the advantage and win.
Right. Yeah.
Right. But that aspect of slowing down that initial piece is what enables you to speed up and sustain that speed. Right. Yeah. And so it really requires a different mindset. It really is about looking forward and learning. I think it's why I like the velocity mindset is it's much more of a learning mindset as opposed to a reactive mindset. I think that, there definitely needs to be you need to build in a discipline of subtraction.
So actually on that point, that brings up actually one thing that I'm remembering now I did want to talk about. So we have I'm in implementation land. We have a client implementation where they're moving from one system to HubSpot, and they've made very clear, like the goal is, and they have a deadline, right? They're going to be out of that system by the end of February. So like we have all agreed that we are maniacally focused on, we need to replicate what they have and be able to have the team move into HubSpot and be successful in HubSpot, be able to do what they're doing today, like that. And anything else, if they can add on, great, but it cannot get in the way of us being able to get them in and launched and doing what they're doing. So they've been really good about, okay, that's an enhancement that's going on the backlog. We're not doing that right now. To the point that there's been things that really could easily pull their focus and they could get in the weeds on and say, okay, this is really interesting. I want to do this now. We're getting pushed from other folks in places of, hey, we need this. Hey, we need this. No, we're not doing that thing because that's going to be detrimental. That focus of, to your point, levels of complete, like we've clearly defined complete. We're all on the same page and everybody has been aligned on that. And
it fed how we rolled it out, how we talked about it, how we managed expectations, right? We didn't get into the, when you're making a big change, the temptation is to sell the vision.
Yeah.
Right. And there's a little bit of selling the vision. Here's why we're doing it. But here's what day one is going to be. Here's what you're going to have on day one. Right. And there's an element, by the way, you're not going to love day one. You're not, because it's going to be different. You'll have the same functionality. You'll be able to do everything that you can do, but it's going to be different. And that's going to be a little bit harder. Here's what the next step, here's what the next, we already know what the next level of complete is.
I was going to say, the piece that they did that I really like on being able to talk to the vision is they spent some time laying out, okay, this is phase one, this is phase two, this is phase three. So you can see, and folks can see, okay, this is what's on the horizon. You're not getting this on this date. You're getting what you have on this date. And then these things are coming. And I think that was really smart because it allows us to talk to the vision and what enhancements they're going to have, but set the expectation you're not getting them today.
It also means that you're able to interpret the feedback that you're getting, because there's certain areas where you expect there's going to be some levels of dissatisfaction. So when you get those levels of dissatisfaction, then you don't have to go, oh my God, wait, we've got a problem. We've got to fix this. They're right. If you haven't defined that level of complete and what that means, then you've got no fixed point with which to establish velocity. And so you just try to do more and more and more and more and more. Right. What we've done very well here, and it's going to lead to, I think, no question, a superior outcome, is we've done a really good job subtracting things from the list, getting clear on things. Hey, you know what? We thought this would be necessary. It's not necessary. Let's, this is going to get in the way. This is going to have this training impact, which is going to require a level of learning. Let's breathe that in. We've got, by the way, there's another client that you don't know. We actually pushed out an initiative that, like, hey, you know what? we're slotting that for Q3,
Right.
because we've got 2 levels of complete we've got to get to before that really becomes, but before they're really ready to take advantage of that. And if we bring that in too early, then we risk overwhelming the user base, and they don't adopt that well, but they also don't adopt what we've already started.
Yeah.
Well.
I think that's a piece that gets missed when we talk about setting expectations within your org as well, is put it on the backlog and talk about, okay, this is slated for, this is our phase 2, this is our phase 3. And then again, you then don't become the no police, right? You become, okay, you become more reliable, honestly, and more trustworthy. Because it's like, okay, I know I'm not getting this now. Like, I know what to expect as a user. And also you can plan out much easier that way.
As the old saying goes, don't piss down my back and tell me it's raining.
Exactly. And if you try to say yes to everything, that's where you just shoot yourself in the foot.
Well, look, I wrote a book called Parenting the Office. So no surprise I'm going to say this. But, if you say yes to your kids all the time, you're not going to have well-adjusted, well-behaved kids.
No?
Right. I mean, we all, like, rules, constraints unlock velocity. Again, there's so much speed going on. The question is where, is it getting us anywhere?
Yeah.
Right. That's really the real question. Here's the thing that I really appreciate about a velocity mindset. Do you know what happens, Jess, when you take a velocity mindset instead of a speed mindset?
What?
You say no to shitty RevOps.
Till next time.
And that's a wrap on this episode of The RevOps Show. Thank you so much for tuning in this week. Before you go, don't forget to follow us on Apple or Spotify and subscribe to our YouTube channel to catch Doug and Jess's live reactions. We would love for you to become a part of the community if you are not already. And if you have any inquiries about the show or have any questions you would want Doug and Jess to answer, email me at hannah@liftenablement.com. Remember, going fast might feel good, but if you're not actually getting anywhere, was it worth it? Until next time, just say no to shitty RevOps.